The evening rush at Riverside Bistro was just beginning to wind down. Claire Bennett wiped down the outdoor tables one more time, her feet aching in the sensible canvas sneakers she wore during her long shifts. At 26, she'd been working at the bistro for nearly 3 years, ever since. She'd moved to the city with dreams of becoming a teacher, only to find that paying rent while attending night classes was harder than she'd imagined. Claire had platinum blonde hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, and she wore the bistro's uniform, a crisp white button-down shirt beneath, a navy blue apron that tied at the waist, paired with black pants. The uniform was simple but professional, and Claire took pride in her appearance even after hours of serving customers. The bistro occupied a corner location in the renovated warehouse district, where old brick buildings had been transformed into trendy restaurants, art galleries, and lofts. It was the kind of neighborhood where young professionals grabbed lattes before work and families strolled on weekend afternoons. Claire loved working there, loved the energy of the street, even if her paycheck barely covered her studio apartment and student loan payments. She'd just finished clearing the last outdoor table when she noticed a little girl sitting on the curb across the street. The child couldn't have been more than 5 or 6 years old, with light brown hair pulled into a small ponytail. She wore a beautiful cream-colored coat that looked expensive, white sneakers, and what appeared to be a school uniform beneath the coat. But what caught Claire's attention was the way the little girl was sitting, hunched over slightly, looking small and lost despite the nice clothes. Claire glanced around looking for a parent or guardian, but saw no one paying attention to the child. The street was busy with evening. Pedestrians, people in business suits heading home from work, couples walking to dinner, a few tourists taking photos of the historic buildings. But no one seemed to notice the little girl sitting alone on the curb. Claire felt a flutter of concern. She looked back at the bistro where her manager was inside counting the register. Her shift was technically over. She'd worked a double, from 11 in the morning until 7 in the evening, and she was exhausted. But something about that little girl sitting alone troubled her. Making a decision, Claire grabbed her own dinner from behind the counter, a turkey and cheese sandwich the kitchen had made for her, wrapped in paper, and crossed the street. "Hi there," Claire said gently as she approached, kneeling down so she'd be at the child's eye level. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" The little girl looked up, and Claire saw that her eyes were red-rimmed, as if she'd been crying. Up close, Claire could see that despite the expensive clothes, the child looked tired and sad and very young. "I'm okay," the little girl said in a small voice, but she didn't sound okay at all. "Are you waiting for someone?" Claire asked. "Your mom or dad?" The little girl nodded. "My daddy. He said to wait right here, that he'd just be a minute. But it's been a really long time." Her lower lip trembled. "And I'm hungry. We were supposed to get dinner, but then Daddy got a phone call and said it was important and I should wait." Claire felt her heart squeeze. She looked around again, searching for any adult who might be looking for a child, but saw no one. "How long have you been waiting?" Claire asked. The little girl shrugged. "I don't know. A long time. The sun was still higher." She pointed vaguely at the sky. Claire made a quick calculation. It was nearly 7:30 now, and the sun had set around 6. So at least an hour and a half, possibly longer, this child had been sitting alone on a curb for over an hour. "What's your name?" Claire asked. "Lily," the girl said. "Lily Anderson." "That's a beautiful name." "I'm Claire." She smiled warmly. "Lily, I work at that restaurant right over there." She pointed to the bistro. "I just finished my shift and they made me a sandwich for dinner, but I haven't eaten yet, and honestly, I'm not that hungry. Would you like to have it?" "You said you were hungry." Lily's eyes widened as she looked at the sandwich Claire was holding. "Really? You'd give me your dinner?" "Of course," Claire said. "I can always make myself something when I get home. Besides, I had a big lunch." This was a lie. She'd eaten a small salad during her break, but Claire didn't want Lily to feel guilty about accepting food. She unwrapped the sandwich and handed it to Lily, who took it with both hands as if it were precious. "Thank you," Lily said, and she took a bite. Claire watched the relief wash over the child's face as she ate, and realized Lily must have been truly hungry. "Do you have a phone number for your daddy?" Claire asked as Lily ate. "Maybe we could try calling him?" I don't know his number, Lily said around a mouthful of sandwich. It's in my backpack, but I left my backpack in Daddy's car. Okay, Claire said, thinking. Can you tell me what your daddy looks like? Maybe if I see him, I can help him find you. He's really tall, Lily said. And he has dark hair. And he wears fancy suits. Today his suit was black. She took another bite of sandwich. He's very handsome. That's what everyone says. And he's important. He works a lot. Claire felt a mixture of concern and frustration. A tall man in a black suit could describe half the businessmen in this neighborhood. And the detail about him working a lot, combined with the fact that he'd left his young daughter sitting alone on a curb for over an hour, suggested a certain set of priorities that troubled Claire. But she kept her expression neutral. I'm sure your daddy is looking for you and will be here very soon. But how about this? Why don't you come sit on that bench right there? She pointed to a bench directly in front of the bistro's windows, where I can keep an eye on you. That way, if your daddy comes back to this spot, he'll still be able to see you, but you won't be sitting on the curb. And I'll stay with you until he gets here. Does that sound okay? Lily nodded eagerly, and Claire helped her move to the bench. Claire sat down beside her, and Lily continued eating the sandwich with obvious enjoyment. This is really good, Lily said. We don't usually eat sandwiches. Daddy likes fancy restaurants, but I like sandwiches better. They're easier. I like sandwiches too, Claire said with a smile. Sometimes simple is best. They sat together for several minutes, Claire pointing out interesting things on the street, a dog being walked, a bicycle with a basket of flowers, a street musician setting up on the corner. Lily finished the sandwich and carefully folded the paper it had been wrapped in, placing it neatly on her lap. You're very tidy, Claire observed. Daddy says we should always be neat and respectful, Lily said. He says it's important to have good manners, especially because people are always watching us. Claire found this comment a bit odd, but didn't pursue it. Instead, she said, Your daddy sounds like he teaches you good things. He tries, Lily said, and there was something surprisingly mature in her tone. But he's really busy. He has a lot of meetings and phone calls. Today was supposed to be our special day, just Daddy and me, but then work happened again. Claire felt a surge of sympathy for this child who clearly loved her father but was learning early on what it meant to come second to a career. I'm sure he loves you very much, Claire said gently. Sometimes grown-ups get too caught up in work and they forget what's really important, but that doesn't mean they don't love their children. I know he loves me, Lily said. He tells me every day, but I wish he could show me more. Like, be there for school things, or not forget to pick me up from piano lessons, or not leave me sitting on curbs. The matter-of-fact way Lily said this last part broke Claire's heart. Before Claire could respond, she heard a man's voice calling out urgently. Lily, Lily! Both Claire and Lily looked up to see a man striding down the sidewalk, moving fast, his expression frantic. He was indeed tall, probably 6'2" or 6'3", with dark hair and a well-groomed appearance. He wore a black suit that was clearly expensive, custom-tailored with a white shirt and no tie. Even from a distance, Claire could see he was conventionally handsome, sharp features, strong jawline, the kind of looks that belonged on magazine covers. But what struck Claire most was the expression on his face. This wasn't just concern, it was terror, the look of a parent who'd realized their child was missing. Daddy! Lily jumped up from the bench, and the man immediately swept her into his arms, holding her tight. Oh, thank God, he was saying, his voice rough with emotion. Lily, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I told you to wait by the fountain, and when I came back, you were gone. I've been looking everywhere. I was about to call the police. But, Daddy, you told me to wait by the street corner, Lily said, confused. You pointed right over there. The man closed his eyes briefly. The fountain is by the street corner. I thought you'd understand. Oh, God, Lily, I'm sorry. I should have been more clear. I should have... He trailed off, seeming to notice Claire for the first time. He set Lily down but kept one hand on her shoulder, as if afraid she might disappear again. Who are you? He asked Claire, his tone cautious but not hostile. My name is Claire Bennett. I work at Riverside Bistro across the street. Claire stood up, maintaining a respectful distance. I saw Lily sitting on the curb by herself, and she said she'd been waiting for quite a while. I gave her my dinner and stayed with her to make sure she was safe until you returned." The man's expression shifted through several emotions: relief, gratitude, and then something that might have been shame. "You gave her your dinner?" "She was hungry," Claire said simply. "It was just a sandwich. No big deal." "It is a big deal," the man said firmly. He looked down at Lily. "Did you thank Miss Claire?" "I did, Daddy," Lily said. "She was really nice. She gave me her whole sandwich even though she was hungry too." The man met Claire's eyes, and she saw genuine gratitude there, mixed with something else, perhaps, an awareness of how badly he'd failed his daughter today. "Thank you," he said. I can't tell you how grateful I am, not just for the food, but for staying with her, for keeping her safe. When I realized she wasn't where I thought she'd be, when I couldn't find her," he stopped, seeming to struggle with his emotions. "She's safe," Claire said gently. "That's what matters." "But Mr. Anderson, how did you know my name?" He interrupted. "Lily told me. Mr. Anderson, I don't mean to overstep, but Lily said she'd been waiting for a really long time. Over an hour from what I can tell. That's a long time for a small child to be alone on a city street." She saw his jaw tighten, but he nodded. "You're absolutely right. There's no excuse. I got caught up in a business call, an emergency situation that needed immediate attention. I told Lily I'd just be 5 minutes. But the call went long, and then there was another call, and..." He ran his hand through his hair in frustration. "And none of that matters. None of that is more important than my daughter. I know that. Sometimes I forget." Claire saw the genuine remorse in his face and softened slightly. "We all make mistakes. What matters is learning from them." "You sound like a teacher," he said, managing a small smile. "Working on it," Claire said. "I'm taking classes to get my teaching certificate. Working full-time and studying at night. That's admirable," he said. Then, reaching into his jacket pocket, he pulled out his wallet. "Please let me pay you for the sandwich. And for your time. And really, for keeping Lily safe. That's worth more than I can repay. But let me try." He pulled out what looked like several $100 bills. And Claire felt her eyes widen before she caught herself. "I don't want money," she said firmly. "I gave Lily my sandwich because she was a hungry child and I had food. That's not something you pay someone for. That's just being human." "But you gave up your dinner," he insisted. "You stayed with her, kept her safe. You deserve compensation." "No," Claire said, more firmly this time. "Mr. Anderson, I appreciate the gesture. But I didn't help Lily because I expected payment. I helped her because it was the right thing to do. If you want to thank me, just be there for her. She's a wonderful little girl, and she deserves to have her father present, not just providing." She saw something flash across his face, surprise perhaps, or recognition. He slowly put the money back in his wallet. "You're right," he said quietly. "And I apologize for trying to turn your kindness into a transaction. That was wrong of me." He paused. "But please, at least let me replace your dinner. Is there a restaurant nearby where I can buy you a meal?" Claire hesitated. She was genuinely hungry, having given away her sandwich, and her cupboards at home were fairly bare until her next paycheck. But she didn't want to impose or create some obligation. "Really, it's not necessary," she began. "Please," he said, and there was something vulnerable in his tone. "Let me do this one small thing. You helped my daughter when she needed it. Let me at least make sure you don't go hungry because of your kindness." Claire looked at Lily, who was watching them both with interest, and then back at Mr. Anderson. She saw that this mattered to him, that he needed to do something tangible to express his gratitude. "Okay," she said finally. "There's a pizza place 2 blocks down. Nothing fancy, but they make excellent slices." "Perfect," Mr. Anderson said. "We'll all go. Lily and I owe you dinner." "I already had a sandwich," Lily pointed out. "Then you can have pizza too," her father said, ruffling her hair. "It's not every day someone is kind enough to share their dinner with you." They walked together to the pizza place, a casual spot called Marco's that Claire visited whenever. She had a few extra dollars. Mr. Anderson seemed slightly out of place in his expensive suit among the plastic tables and paper plates, but he didn't complain. He ordered a large pizza with various toppings and insisted Claire get whatever she wanted to drink. As they waited for their food, sitting at one of the small tables, Mr. Anderson extended his hand across the table. I realize we haven't been properly introduced. My name is James Anderson. Claire shook his hand, noting the firm grip and the calluses that suggested he didn't just push papers around a desk. Claire Bennett. Nice to officially meet you. Claire was really nice, Daddy, Lily said, coloring on a paper placemat with crayons the restaurant provided. She talked to me and showed me things on the street so I wouldn't be scared. And she didn't make me feel bad about being alone. That's because you didn't do anything wrong, Claire said gently. Your daddy made a mistake, but that wasn't your fault. James met her eyes, and Claire saw appreciation there. Thank you for that. I don't want... Lily thinking she did something wrong when the mistake was entirely mine. The pizza arrived, and they ate together. Lily chattering about school and her piano lessons and a book she was reading. Claire found herself enjoying the company, the easy conversation, the way James gave his daughter his full attention now that he was present. So you're working toward your teaching certificate, James said as they neared the end of the meal. What age group? Elementary, Claire said. I love working with young children. There's something magical about that age. They're still excited about learning, still believe they can do anything. I want to be part of nurturing that. That's a noble goal, James said. Teaching is one of the most important professions, though it's sadly undervalued in our society. Tell me about it, Claire said with a laugh. The pay certainly reflects that. Is that why you're working at the bistro? To support yourself while you finish your degree? Claire nodded. I moved to the city 3 years ago, planning to go to school full-time. But the cost of living here is higher than I anticipated. So I work full-time at the bistro and take night classes. It's slow going, but I'll get there eventually. How many more classes do you need? James asked. 4 more, plus a semester of student teaching. So probably another 1.5 years if I can keep up this pace. James was quiet for a moment, studying her with an expression Claire couldn't quite read. Then he said, Claire, would you be open to a conversation about a job opportunity? Claire blinked in surprise. What kind of job opportunity? I own a company called Anderson Educational Solutions. We develop learning software and educational tools for schools and families. We're always looking for people who understand child development and who are passionate about education. Your experience as a teacher in training, combined with your obvious compassion and patience, would be valuable. The position would be full-time, with a salary significantly higher than restaurant work, plus benefits. And we have a tuition reimbursement program for employees pursuing degrees in education. Claire stared at him, hardly believing what she was hearing. You're offering me a job? Just like that? I'm offering you an opportunity to interview for a position. James clarified. I don't make unilateral hiring decisions. We have an HR department for that. But I can make sure your resume gets serious consideration. And from what I've seen of your character tonight, I think you'd be an excellent fit for our company culture. I don't know what to say, Claire said honestly. That's incredibly generous, but I don't want you to feel obligated just because I helped Lily. This isn't about obligation, James said. Well, not entirely. Yes, I'm grateful for what you did tonight, but I'm also a businessman, and I don't offer jobs to people I don't think would be assets to my company. You showed judgment, compassion, and integrity tonight. Those are qualities we value. The rest, the specific skills, the knowledge that can be trained. Can Claire come work at your company, Daddy? Lily asked, looking up from her coloring. Then I could see her sometimes. James smiled at his daughter. If Claire interviews well and our HR department agrees she's a good fit, then yes, she might come work for us. But that's up to Claire to decide. Claire looked at this man who'd gone from panicked parent to grateful, father to potential employer in the span of a few hours. She thought about her current life, the exhausting double shifts, the barely making rent stress, the slow progress toward her degree, and she thought about the possibility of a job that actually aligned with her goals, that paid enough for her to live on, that would help her finish school faster. I'd like to interview, she said. Thank you. I really appreciate the opportunity. Excellent, James said, pulling out his phone. Let me get your contact information, and I'll have my assistant reach out to schedule an interview. They exchanged phone numbers, and James insisted on calling Claire a car service to take her home since it was getting late. As she waited for the car outside Marco's Pizza, Lily gave her a tight hug. Thank you for the sandwich and for being nice to me, Lily said. I hope you get to work with Daddy. Then maybe we can